Hi, I'm Ellen Folman, and I'm from Emmanuel Community United Methodist Church. I'd like to welcome you to this week's Once Upon a Bible Time. Today's story is called Together on the Journey. Here we go. Guess what I've got, Grandpa? Evie held up a colorful box to the computer camera. Is that sidewalk chalk? Grandpa asked. Yes, it's a kit with 9 different colors and some tape and some stencils for a butterfly and a soccer ball. Mom says now that the rain has stopped, I can use it on the driveway later today. That's going to make your neighborhood a beautiful place, Evie. It came from the mail from Aunt Ruth, Evie said, but it's been raining since I got it. Evie's Aunt Ruth visited often and always bought some craft ideas of things to make with Evie and Eddie. She was lots of fun and didn't mind a mess. She's my favorite aunt, you know, Evie whispered. She takes good care of me and Eddie. She's just like her namesake then, said Grandpa. What's a namesake? Said Evie. It's a person you're named after. Grandma and I named our daughter Ruth after the woman in the Bible who was really helpful to her family. Do you know that story? I don't think so, Evie answered, but I'd like to hear it. Once upon a Bible time, Grandpa began, there was a mom and a dad and their 2 sons. The land they lived in, Judah, had a terrible drought. There was no rain for months and months, and no food could grow. We could share some rain with them. I haven't been outside to play for so long, Evie complained. Yes, it's been a wet spring here, Grandpa agreed, but no rain was a real problem in Judah. Finally, the family left and moved to Moab, and there was enough food. While they were there, the boys grew up and got married. The family lived together happily. But the father grew old and died, and then, unfortunately, only a couple of years later, both of the sons became sick and they died. Not only was this very, very sad, but it also created a big problem for Naomi, the mom, and Orpah and Ruth, who had been married to the sons. In Bible times, there weren't many jobs for women. They couldn't own land to farm. They didn't have any protection from robbers. They might even be sold as slaves. Without a husband or son who could take care of them, Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth were in trouble. Naomi decided that she should go back to Judah. Even though she had been away many years, she still had family there who could take care of her. And the drought had ended, so there was plenty of food in Judah again. Orpah and Ruth helped Naomi pack up everything. They laughed a little as they remembered all the good times. They cried a little when they found something that reminded them of the good men who had died. When everything was ready, Naomi told Orpah and Ruth goodbye. Naomi, we're going with you, both women said. I thought we were all going to Judah together, admitted Evie. They're a family. Why would Naomi tell them goodbye? Naomi thought Orpah and Ruth should go back to their own families. Remember, they were from Moab, not Judah. They wouldn't know anyone in Judah. Even their gods would be different. Because in Moab, people worshipped many gods, but in Judah, the Jews only worshipped the one true God. Everything would be so different. After much discussion, Orpah decided to go back to her own family. Her father would take care of her, and maybe she would have an opportunity to marry again and have a family of her own. Ruth, however, refused to leave Naomi. Wherever you go, I'm going too. You are my family. Your relatives are my relatives. Even your God will be my God. I will stay with you as long as I live. Oh, good, said Evie. I'm glad Naomi won't be all alone. That's right. Ruth refused to leave her mother-in-law, so they set off for Judah. They traveled north around the Dead Sea. What's a Dead Sea? Evie wanted to know. Do you remember swimming in the ocean? Grandpa asked. Evie nodded. The ocean water is salty on your lips and stings your eyes, not like water from a fresh lake. Well, the Dead Sea is even saltier than the ocean. It's so salty no fish can live there. This is where they were. Moab, and there is the Dead Sea, and then they're going to go back to Judah. Ruth and Naomi traveled about halfway around the Dead Sea to Judah on the other side. When they reached Bethlehem, they stopped. "Let me go find some food for us," said Ruth. The barley harvest was just beginning. It was the custom of the Jewish farmers to make only one trip through the fields to harvest and leave behind whatever wasn't harvested in that trip. Anyone in need was allowed to roam the fields after the harvesters went through and gather up what was left behind. This was called gleaning, and it was a good way to be sure no one went hungry. Ruth spent the morning bent over, picking up the leftover barley to put in her basket. She would be able to make bread then to eat with Naomi. At lunchtime, Boaz, the man who owned the field, saw her working. He realized he hadn't seen her before. He asked the harvesters, "Who is that young woman?" They told him it was Ruth, the Moabite woman who had just arrived with Naomi. Boaz was actually a relative of Naomi's husband. Earlier in the village, he had heard about Naomi's return and the daughter-in-law who refused to be left behind. He called Ruth over. "Stay in this field to glean today. Don't feel you need to find another location. My harvesters will be sure you are safe." "Sir, I am a stranger in your land and you don't even know me, but thank you for your kindness." "Thank you for taking good care of Naomi," replied Boaz. Boaz invited Ruth to join his workers for lunch. Privately, he told them, "Leave behind some extra barley for Ruth. She is showing kindness to her family." When evening came, Ruth threshed the barley she had gathered. She had almost 30 pounds of barley flour. This would make bread for many days. When Naomi saw how hard Ruth had worked that day, she hugged her daughter-in-law. "Where did you glean today? May God bless the owner of the field who allowed us to share the harvest." Ruth told Naomi about Boaz. "I remember Boaz," Naomi said. "He was a very young man then, but very kind. If he's willing, you should go back to his field every day during the harvest. I know he'll look out for you and me." Ruth did that. And guess what, Evie? "What, Grandpa?" Ruth and Boaz became friends, and finally they got married. Did they live happily ever after? Oh yes, Evie. Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz had a very happy ending to their story. "I'm glad," said Evie. "And I think you were right to name Aunt Ruth after the Bible, Ruth. They both take good care of their families." Just then, Evie's mother appeared. "I think the driveway is finally dry," she said. "Are you ready to use your new chalk?" "Oh, yes," cried Evie, jumping up from her chair. "Bye, Grandpa." "Send Theo and me a picture of your art. Love you lots. Bye-bye." They clicked off. The end. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.